Hey. Mm-mm. Come on, man.
Not right now.
What are you doing?
Go away now.
You're just sitting there.
I'm praying. Trying to.
You're praying?
Praying. You know, praying.
What do you mean you're praying?
What do you mean? What do I mean by praying? Well, what do I mean? Am I talking to God? Having a conversation? Am I meditating? Am I sitting silently in restive contemplation? Well, that's worth thinking about. Well, welcome to Egret Isle Farm and the Serene Disciple Project, and welcome to the deck, or on Egret Isle Farm, the dock. If you've not seen the video where I introduce the monastic, the suburban monastic quadrangle, you might want to take a look at that. This is the area that I have associated with personal devotion. And so today we want to kind of unpack that, but let me start with what I think personal devotion is, and my story with prayer, which started out not out here, but in there. Come on along.
Now, in terms of faith, understand that I'm a lifer. I started going to church 9 months before I was born, so my first experience with prayer was of the "now I lay me down to sleep" variety. Simple, naive, trusting, childlike. And as much as my ironic and cynical later self would like to dismiss those childhood prayers as silly and irrelevant, well, they were sincere and expressed something that I would return to again and again in my spiritual wanderings. They expressed, relied on the most basic idea that God, whoever that would turn out to be, was, well, in it with me, somehow. That under or over or just out of sight, in the middle of it, God is present and interactive. By the time I was a teenager, even though I had not grown up in a tradition that fostered it, I became something of a biblical literalist. And in the Bible, Jesus said that I should go into my closet to pray in secret. Pray in the closet? Well, okay. If that's what it says, that's what it says. So I cleared out the bottom layer of my closet, and went in there and prayed. I prayed for hours at a time. And what did I pray? Well, around that time, I attended something called the Dick Eastman 1-Hour School of Prayer at a local church, where a system of prayer was taught which broke an hour up into 12 blocks of 5 minutes each and assigned a different prayer activity to each wedge, as you can see here. And I went around that wheel again and again and again. And again, I am tempted to dismiss such an inorganic and mechanistic way of praying as legalism or formalism, certainly nothing that anything good could come from. And it's true, I don't pray that way today. And yet, when I think back over that season of my life and those hours that I prayed, I can see that it was valuable to learn that prayer form then and maybe now. And when I think back about what it felt like to pray those hours and hours, I remember that time and those hours as being sweet and dear, not legalistic, not tedious. So I do wonder what my parents made of that pile of closet stuff shoved into the middle of the room and that old office chair with the legs broken off tucked in the closet. I wonder what they thought I was doing in there.
In my 20s, I became a youth pastor and then an associate pastor, and in my 30s, I became a senior pastor. My prayer life became, interestingly, both professionally oriented and almost non-existent. Professionally oriented in that when I prayed almost exclusively about the church, how to grow the church, how to deal with the people already in the church, how to do my job, counseling, sermons, dealing with conflict, pastor stuff. But practically non-existent in that I was usually far too busy to roll out my list of prayer points before God. And secretly, shh, this is just between the two of us, I began to wonder, did it really make any difference anyway? You pray for something to happen. Maybe it's for someone to be healed of an illness, or for someone to get a job, or for someone to receive comfort in distress. And you pray. And sometimes it happened. Sometimes it didn't happen. And whether it happened or didn't happen seemed random or arbitrary, at least unpredictable. And of course, you can't help trying to apply some sort of rationale to it. When it worked, why did it work? How can we reproduce this? And when it didn't work, what went wrong? How can we avoid that in the future to make sure our, prayers get answered? Was it lack of faith somehow? Was it that really I didn't have a clue what was actually going on, and if God had answered my request, that'd have been the worst possible thing? Was there sin involved somehow? I have no idea. And so in time, my professional Christian pastor prayer devolved into, oh Lord, please do, whatever you were going to do anyway, had I never mentioned it. Amen. And in my 40s, I lost interest in trotting out my prayer list anymore. Oh, I'd pray if asked to, and I'd pray at all of the appropriate moments that a pastor is supposed to pray, but I'd keep it short, simple, without a great deal of embellishment or flourish, which earned me some concerned looks from those who expected more in prayer from a pastor. At the same time, I found that I had less and less patience with those whose prayers seemed more show than anything else. And I dreaded pastoral prayer meetings where it seemed like the prayers that were prayed were performance art designed to impress the other pastors. Now, I think probably some of that was true among all of the very sincere prayers that were being prayed, but at the time I didn't have the patience or, frankly, the interest to sort out which was which. And then, I checked out of the game completely. Though I kept up the appearance of an emergent, angry young rock star Christian, which I guess was my own version of performance art. I went strolling among the fields of religious experience for some form of prayer or personal devotion that did seem real to me. I read Catholic authors and tried both liturgical prayer and contemplative prayer.
May He guide you through the wilderness and protect you through the storm. And may He bring you home rejoicing at the wonders He has shown you. May He bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.
Better than the divine letter to Santa that I had been mailing in, but I wanted more. I started attending a local Zen center and practicing Zazen, or Buddhist meditation. It felt good to simply be silent. I experimented with yoga and settled on a meditative form of yoga called Kundalini, which I found that I liked because it involved my breathing and my body in the process of meditation. I learned about centering prayer and mindfulness, and I learned that there are a lot of ways to pray, and that my prayer vocabulary was small and limited and limiting, and that no single group had the market cornered on the one right way to pray. You know, I picked up a lot of valuable things on my travels through prayer land, and I've incorporated them into my practice, and some things I left where I found them. So where does that leave me now? When I say that I practice personal devotion, when I say that I spend time on the deck or the dock, as the case may be, what do I mean by that? Well, I guess my personal devotion, what I call personal devotion, is a kind of a blend of a good old-fashioned Santa letter and some liturgical prayer and some meditation, some contemplative prayer, and a healthy dose of silence. And I do believe it's important for me, for you, to spend time in personal devotion, along with creative work, radical hospitality, and generous friendship. Those are the elements of the Serene Disciple Suburban Monastic Quadrangle. Next week, I'll see you in the shop. Well, I think that's enough for today. We'll see you next time. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, and give.